I don't really think that Grahame is unknown to anybody here, but perhaps.
I'm not sure I know everybody in the audience.
Huh? Not sure you know everybody.
I'm not sure I know everybody in the audience.
But what can I tell you that Grahame has been the backbone of the moving image in this department since 1990, I believe. Is that correct?
91.
91, okay. That's long enough. And his career is remarkable in many ways. I'm not going to go into all the details of that career except to say that he has been a pioneer of interactive video, a historian and critic of video, a commercial editor, an editor of documentaries, a champion of all forms of the moving image, and perhaps as knowledgeable as anyone of the history of experimental and, let's say, out of the realm of commercial Hollywood, so on, filmmaking, video making, whatever. He has had gallery representation, he's had shows in major museums and in collections of major museums, and you can look at all of his details in his Google, but most of you know this. What I want to say is, on a very personal level, this program wouldn't be what it is without Grahame. He is kind of formally retired, but we're not going to let him really do it. He's still available to students as an advisor or as a mentor. And anybody interested who's working on their thesis certainly should get in touch with him. But on a personal level, I taught with Grahame a class called Still and Moving. I think we did it for 12 years. It took different forms each year, but also a major structure that the relation of the still to the moving image. Grahame is a big champion of everything that the new technology could do for the individual image maker, that they could make films or videos that couldn't be made 20 years ago, and still a champion of that, of the experimental, of the long form, the short form, documentary, or the personal expressive document. I'm going on. I know you don't like it, but that's too bad.
No, I love it, but you're taking.
No, they all want to hear this. What I do want to say is, in addition to being my friend, my colleague, and a teacher here, he's been my teacher. I've learned so much in that course, and every year in the course of our connection in that class, about the moving image and about the form of expressions that are possible in it. And I think anybody in this room who had that class will agree, among other classes they took with him, that it really gave us a full understanding of what I now think is the major form of our time, the moving image, in all fields, in all disciplines. So with no further ado, Grahame Weinbren, Emeritus, SVA, Professor, here you are.
I kind of feel as if Charlie said it all, so maybe we could not do this. I mean, you know everything about me. Actually, that's not true. What I should tell you is I have hardly ever shown my own work in this institution. Didn't think it was a good idea to show my own work to students. I've seen many cases, not here of course, but in other institutions, where students end up imitating their teachers. I kind of don't want to be imitated. So it's a very different kind of occasion for me to be speaking about my own work to you. That's point one. Point two is, yeah, I've been in a lot of shows, and I've been in a lot of places, and I've been all over the world with my work, etc. Not everywhere. Maybe 10% of the world with my work, I should say. You go to a place because you have a piece, and you're going to show the piece, and then you show the piece, and then you talk about the piece. Never are you asked to talk about 50 years of your work. Never. This is the first time in my life that I've been asked to speak about 50 years of my work. Well, I'm not going to speak about 50 years. I'm going to speak about 50 years of some of my work, because I honestly, as Charlie says, I do so many different things. So that's what I'm going to do. I have little examples. You will not see any of my work because I'm only showing you segments and excerpts. And this is not my work. These are examples or demonstrations of my work. So you won't leave here having seen any of my work, but you can see it. You can talk to me. It's on Vimeo. The interactive pieces are not available anymore. Till soon, right? Okay, so that's it. We could kill the lights. Oh wait, have I lost my?
Remote.
My remote. It's in my pocket. It's okay. Here it is. All right. Okay. So, as you can see, I've put up this first slide, which says technology, architecture, and subject matter. And I'd like you to think about those three separate items as I go through some of the work. And you can see this is the things that I'm going to be talking about, which, as I said earlier, misses out a lot of things. For example, I'm just going to do this before we start. For example, it misses out my job as editor of the Millennium Film Journal, which comes out twice a year, and I've been doing it since 1986. It's not on here. It misses out my time running a commercial post-production house, which made films that I have no interest in showing anybody ever. It made commercials, documentaries, and money. Mostly money. And I have no examples of my work as a film editor. Why? Film editors are so perfectionist, and I'm interested in things that are not made for the sake of perfection, as you'll see. So, with that start, I'd like to just discuss these three items in a little detail, and then I'm going to start showing you some work. Okay. What are the notes I made? This may not be the one. So, technology, architecture, and subject matter. Well, technology is kind of obvious. A lot of my work that I've done over the years is been dependent on technology that's just come out. And if you can imagine, 50 years ago, actually, the technology stuff starts in the 1980s. No, there was no digital video. The digital video did not exist. There was no internet. Touch screens were very unusual. So, I mean, there was internet, but there was no social media or iPhones or anything like that. Of course, there was internet. There was email. So, I was in a period where there was very rapid development of certain kind of technologies. And because of a weird series of circumstances, which I'll tell you about, I was able to jump on the back of these technologies and make works that absolutely interested me and that had really never been done before. And yeah, so that's the first point. So obviously the technology that I'm using to make these pieces, and I'll describe it in some detail. Architecture is more nuanced. Obviously, when you make an installation, it's in an architecture. Obviously, in this room, there's an architecture. But that's when we're talking about the physical structures that we're in. But there's also the architecture of cinema. And cinema, as you all know very well, is a time-based medium. Cinema only exists in time. And when you're thinking about the architecture of cinema, you're thinking about a temporal architecture. The basic thing about cinema is it takes place in time. It doesn't exist outside time. And so let me just give you a couple of examples of temporal architecture that you all know already. Foreshadowing, for example. We don't only have foreshadowing in movies that tell stories. We have a lot of foreshadowing in my films that don't tell stories. It's where something about that image or that moment in the film suggests something else is going to happen. And it doesn't make sense until you get to that second thing that's going to happen. So in order to understand the film, we have to move through time in this way. That's one extreme. There's another one that's obvious as well. The real word for it is analepsis. Anybody know what analepsis is? Nobody? Well, I didn't know actually until today. It's a fancy word for flashback. You all know what flashback is. Except that flashback always refers to stories. And analepsis, on the other hand, you can imagine, here's a piece of cinema that refers back to something that happened earlier and only makes sense. It's kind of the other side of analepsis. It only makes sense in that context. So these are the structures. These are two very simple structures, the most simple. There are many structures, temporal structures like this, that make cinema what it is. And very few of them, as far as I can tell, and I say this not only from theory but from making my work, very few of them have to do with telling stories. Very few of the structures of cinema are restricted to telling stories or are only used in telling stories. The third category is subject matter, which of course is most people, when you talk about a movie, you tell them the story of the movie. It doesn't interest me. It doesn't interest me. I don't think films are very good at telling stories. I'm not very good at telling stories. And I don't think it's the right medium to tell a story. If you want to tell a story, write it down. Tell your friends. Find another way. Because stories that are told in cinema tend to have exactly the same structure. And you can always predict, certainly with commercial movies, that they're going to end with everybody kind of resolving their issues. And the whole structure of the film is about setting up the issue, making it complicated, leaving it unresolved, then resolving it in an unusual way, and then finally at the end, they're all brought together. I know, because I've edited those films. I know that's what you have to do. And you spend a lot of time on the last scene, making sure that it all ends in a very comfortable and happy way, even if it's only the last 5 minutes, so that people leave, and when they leave the theater, they see the people outside and say, oh, that was a great film. Because all they remember is the last 5 minutes. So, and believe me, I know this from practice. Most of the things I'm telling you I know from practice, not from theory or anything. Okay, so those are the three subjects. Of course my work has subject matter. All my works deal with subject or subjects. Some of the subjects include stories, some don't. But I don't think I ever tell stories in my films. I refer to stories. And it's about, in some sense, quite often I want to say I refer to paintings, I refer to classical paintings, I refer to case histories. I love the dreams that Freud describes. I'm not particularly interested in the analysis, but the stories of those dreams are fantastic. And I made a few movies that I'll show you that rely on films like dreams like The Wolfman or The Burning Child. If any of you know those dreams, they're just extraordinary. I use those stories, and what I mostly do is I find ways that they interact with other stories that we already know, and each of them changes, because of the cinematic structures that I'm talking about, changes the sense of the story inside that context. Okay. All right, so let's start. Okay, so these are the works I'm going to discuss today. It covers quite a long period of time. My math is right. I'm quite sorry to admit this. It's 50 years. 50 years ago, over 50 years ago, I made my first film. I'm old. Can't help it, sorry. But I'm certainly not going to show you everything. But I will show you some early work, some early films. And I'll show you documentations of my work, as I said, all documentation segments. And sometimes I'll have to show a few stills, but I don't really like to show stills. You'll see a few stills. Okay, so given that, let us go to the first piece. Did that do anything? Okay, so the first section of this, I'm looking at 3 films. I made about 12 films 10 or 12 films between 1972 and 1980, mostly in collaboration with Roberta Friedman, who I'm sorry is not here today. I'm going to show you short sections of 3 of them. They're all, of course, 16 millimeter, edited mostly on, the first films were edited on a moviola. If any of you know what a moviola is. And later we got these tables, like Steenbecks and so on. And of course on rewinds and tables like that. Okay. So here's the first film. I'll show you a section of it. It's called Future Perfect. This, as you'll see, it's an 11-minute film. I'm showing 3 minutes of it. This will be true all the time. So please observe those 2 things. Then you'll realize that you're not seeing the whole film. And how long you have to sit through it if you find it difficult. So this is a very good example of the temporal structure of cinema, because clearly actually, I think I have another slide. Here's a still. This says, in case you can't read it, 3 spots will have been drawn. That's the future perfect, right? If you studied languages, you know that's the future perfect. 3 spots will have been drawn on some frames. The number of frames between drawings decreases according to an arithmetic series. And I'm not going to, I spent a long time figuring out different series, and I'm not going to go into it, but you know an arithmetic series is very simple, like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That's an arithmetic series. And that the idea was that that represents the amount of distance in frames between the 3 spots. So when you see this sign, you think back to us, of course, painting those on the wall, which we had to do. Then you're in the present and you start looking, I mean, if you see the whole film, not with this little segment, you start looking for the 3 spots and noticing how they're getting closer and closer together. And then, of course, the geometric series, which I won't bother to explain to you what it is, also decreases, but at a different rate. And all of those series are designed so they start close to the beginning of the film and end around the same time. When they come close to 0, you just see lines on the film. So this is a film that has a whole set of procedures that makes it, and the procedures refer to the present, the past, and the future, the cinematic structure. Of course, so it took Anthony Former, he shot at half speed. It took him 22 minutes to shoot the film. We had, before that, painted all the signs up. We had a very careful path for him to walk on, laid out, and so he could pick up all of the different signs at the right time. And then after 22 minutes at half speed, it was shot and placed back at normal speed. So that means it's going twice as fast as he was. Then we took a special set of markers that marked on ink and went in for the next 6 months, I think it was, marked all those frames. So you can imagine the amount of time that took is much, much slower. So there was all these different processes that were going on that really give you a lot of sense about kind of the nature of time in cinema, and also the work that we had to do. And of course, at the same time, like many, many of my films, it's very personal. It's where we lived. It was pretty crummy. We were on Water Street and Wall. It was a pretty crummy place that we had to pay in cash every month. The two guys with their packs of cards would come around and knock on the door, and we'd have to give them the money. It was pretty crummy. There was no heat or anything like that. But there it is. So when I see it, well, not when you see it, but when I see it, I think back to that particular time in the early 80s. I got here in 78, so yeah, early 80s, where we lived in this space and spent all the time drawing on the walls in the back room. The guys, the 2 thugs didn't care what we did. So that was a big advantage. We could paint on the walls. Okay, so that's Future Perfect. And the reason I've chosen it for this program is it really demonstrates this kind of abstract idea I have about the archaeology. I'm sorry, the architecture of cinema as being temporal, being very much temporal, because you understand this film through the time and not through anything else at all. There's not much to see apart from that. Okay, that's that. Comes the next one. This is called Murray and Max Talk About Money. It's, again, 15 minutes long. I'm showing you 4 excerpts, each about a minute long. This is an interview film. Murray and Max Camelhar were two, this was made in California, actually. We lived in Los Angeles first. They're 2 brothers who were both businessmen. Murray was a socialist. Max was a businessman, the 2 brothers. And so we interviewed them. Actually, Roberta interviewed them. She wrote a script, actually. And the script was the questions that she was going to ask them. And this is what we did. Oh, and the third person in this film is David Wilson, who some of you may know. He started this museum in Los Angeles called the Museum of Jurassic Technology. And he was a friend of ours. And he is painting the wall for us in this film.
Answer either yes or no. No. Yes. No. I don't know. No way. Sure. Hello. That's true. Oh, that. And absolutely not. Yes, I have. Never give it a thought. No, not in all cases. No. Not really, not in all cases. Not in all cases. No, there are things I'd like better than that, but I wouldn't mind that. No, not really.
What is? We hesitate to ask a question because we do not want to hear the answer. Become just an instrument.
Okay, that's the first one. I think that's why we have a black screen here. Okay, so this will be the second one. I should tell you a little bit more about this. Obviously, like all good documentary filmmakers, we cut out the questions except for comments. And we've had a whole set of procedures as to how to edit these sections. And the film was made by following, David Wilson is painting the wall one primary color basically after another, one on top of another. And we followed him, and in a second you'll see how Murray and Max got into it. And part of Roberta's script, which you can listen for, involved her saying things like, "I wasn't listening, could you please say it again?" And then she would say it again. "I wasn't listening, could you please say it again?" She read her script word for word. And it had a lot of these things that which actually would make them quite upset because they thought they were being interviewed about their views about money. But in any case, Murray had a crush on Roberta, so they were going to do it anyway. Okay, this is the next section.
4. Orchard.
Now you can see how the camera's moving. It's following
No,
David.
I don't hold that view at all. Not. Money. Destiny. Manager, self-employed, steeplejack. No. No, it doesn't. My respect is not based on whether you go into it as a salesman or you go into it for speculation. It's another thing, but not at all. Yeah. He's a director. Yeah. Very minor part. He may point out his potential. That's what I do with money.
Okay. So, as you can see, the camera is always following David, and then it's edited for what they're saying. And of course, it goes past the two men, in extreme close-up. And the idea is again about time. You can imagine if you were to watch the whole film, you know it's not. Of course, it's boring, but boring is never an issue as far as I'm concerned. You can imagine the way. What order did he paint the colors in? You can do that by looking at the film very carefully and realizing that he painted one color on top of another. And then, if you listen very carefully and watch it again, you can start repiecing in your head back exactly what happened in this room. So it's about kind of a special relationship between time, about time. Here comes another one. This is a 1-minute excerpt. This is Max. We just saw Murray.
8% certificates. I was involved in. I still have the same friends today that I had as a child, giving the colors, the orders, substantial sum, load the truck, unload the truck, and this job paid $1/4 an hour. Working on show styles to operators that can only work certain styles, and I said, I'm not interested in money you deposited back. And that's the money I'm making now is sufficient that I may never have any need for. Playing blackjack in Las Vegas. Difficulty working on dark materials, I have kids on light materials to work on. A deposit market, stock market, shopping market. Oh yeah, I save pennies in there for my grandson. I'm accumulating by my savings accounts, by my savings bonds, is giving me all the money that I know the average person does not have. Kings of various countries, 7 hours a day. We all know that money brings power, and power brings money.
So you can tell which one was the socialist and which one was the businessman. One more piece, just 50 seconds.
Things are always going wrong.
That's Roberta's voice.
Boats and Hughes or Hugh Hefner to earn enough money. Place to put your money. Salary a person works. Profit, pleasure, reasonable, a real lot of money was in the wallet.
Okay, so that's the Mario Max piece. We don't need to look at the three categories here. You can see the way time plays in there very clearly. You can see exactly what it's about. It's about work and money. And the technology is pretty straightforward too. This is the last piece. It was, I think, maybe the last 16mm film we made together in 1982. It's called Terms of Analysis. And I was reading a lot of theory and stuff, and I noticed that there are certain words that come up in theory quite a lot, the theory at this time. So I call those terms of analysis. And this film looks at a whole lot of different things. And what I'm interested in this film is trying to find relationships between very different kinds of objects and how they affect each other when they don't belong in the same space or in the same room or in the same time. But you put them into a montage, which is a very, very powerful tool, perhaps at the center of all cinema. And you put them into a montage and everything changes. Every piece changes from what it was before, and everything becomes different from being placed inside a time-based series that didn't exist before. So that's the important thing about montage, that it's like you put a whole bunch of stuff into a suitcase, you know, and then you go for a walk, and you know the syrup spills out and you know damages the underwear. But then if you think of it as not being a spatial box, but in time, and you put all these things together, when they mix together, when they're against each other, each of them takes on a very different aspect. And this film is about that in some ways. It also, it has these kind of moments in it where we find a word from a term, an important term of analysis. This is my favorite of the three, actually. The other two, I'm not sure I'm so behind anymore. This is 2:21. It's a 15-minute film. And you can see this is already a digital transfer. Also very much connected with our personal life. We can never find anything. somewhere though. Whatever it is, it's somewhere. Okay, that's the first piece. Here comes another piece. It's 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Maybe I should just say, my filmmaker friend Joanna pointed out to me one fall that the trees and all those ridiculous American colors look like jam, look like strawberry jam. So I thought, oh, that's a good idea. So let's put some jam on the postcards of these autumn trees. And and we had friends coming over, and they really got into this jam and butter and jam on postcards. And it does actually. I mean, if you look at it the right way, it does in fact look like 4 colors. This was taken into the Academy collection. Or actually, all of them were, but this and they made this video transfer, and they transfer 16 millimeter onto 35 millimeter with an open track. I guess it fits in some way. So what you see at the side is the soundtrack of the film. But as those of you who've ever worked with 60 millimeter film will understand, it's 25 frames out of sync. So you will never see the sound that you hear, because in the projector it goes around and it gets to the sound head 25 frames after the picture head. So it's 25 lagging back. So yeah, you might think that you're hearing the sound, but you're not. It's 25 frames
only two things more beautiful than a good film. A Swiss watch or a woman from anywhere. Gotta have a good Swiss watch. Go ahead, try it. Yeah, that's very good. Hey, that's good too. Well, keep it going. Yeah, now I know who you'd be. You'd be Matthew Garth, wouldn't you? That's right. You're as good as they say you are. Maybe as good as me. That puts two of us at the head of it.
Okay, that's it for the films. I guess, sometimes I feel that, that one is a bit much, but in these times, this week, comparing your gun to a sausage is just exactly right. I think that's exactly what people think about when they think about their guns. So, and that's what I mean about changing the way you see these things because of the context. Okay. All right, so can't make a living making these films. I never thought I could. I didn't want to teach, so I became a film editor. And about 1978, I got a few jobs, and as you can see, I'm a pretty good editor. So, and there weren't too many editors then. There weren't too many film editors. It was high paid. You could get at the union easily. So I became a professional commercial film editor. And as I said earlier, commercial film editors are about making perfection. It's the editor's job to make the film perfect, nobody else. The editor's job to make the film perfect. And perfection is so sought after by the commercial film industry. As you'll see, the works I'm going to show you next do not strive for perfection. But my day job definitely strived for perfection. And yeah, it was good because, you get paid well. I could work for 6 months and then take 6 months to do my own work. One of the things I wanted to say is that a lot of the interactive piece I'm about to show you are kind of tempered by specific technologies. And this, I don't suppose any of you know this, but this is about the Laserdisc. A Laserdisc is a very specific and wonderful medium. These are Laserdiscs. This is mine. This is Gary Hill. A Laserdisc is an incredible thing because it takes the frames of film. You usually start off with films, and it lays one on each circle on the Laserdisc. It's an analog medium. And it's read by a laser, and each frame is numbered, and it's random access. You have random access to every frame of your film. Now, if you work in film, you do not have random access to every frame of your film. You have to wind through it to get to the next one. But here, so that means that suddenly you have an interactive medium. You have a medium where you can say, okay, play this frame from here to here, and then jump over to here and play this frame backwards. And so it's a wonderful medium. The quality of video is very high, and it was invented, of course, by the DARPA, which was a government agency that invented weapons of war. And they gave a very big grant to MIT to develop this piece, which is a precursor of Google. What is that? Google Maps. Google Maps, where you could travel around on Google. Now, do any of you know this piece? One or two. Okay. So this is from YouTube. It shows it's like a demo that they were developing at MIT to show how this. What did I do with? Did I really fuck up here? You can see they travel around Aspen, and it's just like Google Maps. And you can go left, you can go right, and you can presumably explore buildings. Here's the typical professor of the time. They all smoke pipes.
Where's he now?
Huh? This is MIT. Where is he now? I don't know. Anyway, so that's the reason I'm showing you this is because I got a job as a film editor to work on the first interactive videos presented to the public ever. It was a museum design firm called Ramirez and Woods, and they were putting together the World's Fair that took place in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1982. And instead of hiring the MIT boys who only make demos, they never finish anything, they looked for a film editor because they knew very well that film editors finish things. And I had a good rep, a nice rep as a kind of a weirdo film editor, could take on anything. So I got this job, putting together the interactive videos for this huge World's Fair. Actually, I don't know if any of you were here when Sam Pollard was here with me, I guess last year. I guess you guys were. Sam and I had editing rooms next to each other at this job that we were working on there. That's when I got to know Sam first. Okay, so all right. So what I learned from this job is I learned how to put together an interactive video station, computer controlled, using multiple disc players. I just did whatever they were doing. I don't know anything about this myself, but I could keep my eyes open. And so this is what led to my first interactive disc, my first interactive project, which was fantastically successul because I was the only artist anywhere using this technology and using computers to control video. And I mean, you'll see it's not the greatest piece, but it was, like everything, very experimental. Like all of my works are very experimental in a literal way. And yeah, so this is the Earl King, which is now in the collection of the Guggenheim. Okay, it was inspired by a resonance, that's a funny word they use, between a dream described by Freud and the myth of the supernatural Erlkönig that kidnaps children who venture into his furrowed territory. I was very taken with this dream described by Freud, which is the burning child dream, where the child has died. It goes into the next room, surrounded by tall candles. The father goes to sleep in the room next door, and suddenly he's woken up by this dream that his child is on fire. He rushes into the next room, and yes, one of the candles is turned over, and the body of the child is on fire. And I read this when I was an early teenager. I think it's in I think it's in the Interpretation of Dreams. I was very struck by this, and I felt as if I wanted to do something with it. Then my friend Noel Brinkman, who is a German film scholar, said to me, that dream has exactly the same structure as Erlkönig, which is a very important piece of German 19th century literature. It's a poem by Goethe. So I said, oh yeah, there's a film there. But it wasn't a film, it was an interactive piece. So I'm going to show you these two pieces. This is just a little demo that we made about it. The music is the music by Schubert that was made for the poem by Goethe. And this is the translation. Who rides so late through the night and the wind? It is the father with his child. I'm reading it to you because I know it's not very readable. He holds his arm around the boy. He holds him tightly, he keeps him warm. So this is from the first part, so that he can see into the next room where the child's body lies surrounded by tall candles. You bury your face What scares you, my son? The Willow King, Father. That's the translation. Look, don't you see? The Earl King with his crown and train. The father doesn't believe the son. My son, it's only it's only a shaft of mist. An old man has been engaged to keep watch, and he sits beside the body murmuring prayers. My child, dear child, come go with me. Wonderful games we'll play. Wonderful games we'll play, you and I. Bright flowers are blooming on the riverbank. And my mother is wearing garments of gold. Father, my father, don't you hear how the Earl King is whispering promises to me? Don't worry, be calm, my child. It's only the wind that rustles in dry leaves. A few hours later, after a few hours, the father goes into the next room. Oh no, he has a loud sound, and he goes to the next room. Will you go with me, my gentle boy? My daughters will take care of you. My daughters lead a nightly dance. They'll swing and leap and sing you to sleep. He clasps him by the arm and whispers to him reproachfully. This is a father, this child grabbing his father. Father, Father, and can't you see how the Earl King, I can't read that one now. They're in the gloom. The Earl King's daughter's there in the gloom. My son, I see it all. It's only the glow of the grey willow trees. Father wakes up, startled by a bright light from the adjoining room. I love you, I'm drawn by your beautiful form. And if you don't come, I shall take you by force. Father, my father, he touches me now. The Earl King has done me great harm. Rushing in, he finds that the old man has fallen asleep, knocking over a candle. Fear grips the father. He slowly rises. He holds the groaning child in his arms. The bed sheets on one arm of the child. With his final strength, he reaches the inn. The bed sheets on one arm of the child's beloved body are in flames. But in his arms, the child was dead. So I don't think I've ever shown this to anybody before. This is a study that we did. I found it when I was going through all my stuff, and I thought, worth looking at. I will tell you the story of the spray painting on the cars. I don't know if you know about this, but on the lower part of the FDR Drive, there's the river there. Gangs of kids used to steal cars, and they push them over the edge. So there are piles and piles, many abandoned cars along that area next to the river at the lower part of the FDR Drive. So, New York was pretty funky then. It's not this wonderful bourgeois town we all live in now. And so we took our friend Zev, and we had him spray the story of the Earl King on those cars, just so that it could be there in the vicinity. And that's where that's come from. So that's that. Now I'm going to show you this. So this is the Earl King. It's a song. It's also a song. We had it sung by the soprano Elizabeth Arnold. Here it is in action. This is kind of the opening excerpt that you look at to get a sense of what is in the piece. So there's no interactivity yet, but you can see a lot of the materials that we used in the piece.
One part of the screen brings in images that illustrate the song. Touching the other part brings in translations of the lines into English.
So that's what we use those for inside Erlkönig. The lines were translated when you touch the screen.
A computer-controlled 3-video disc system allows the music to continue while viewer input can change the images.
So we threw everything into this piece. We threw everything into this piece. So I just wanted, this is what the touchscreen looked like. Nobody had seen a touchscreen before, I mean, at this point. It was a pretty new thing. It turned out it wasn't really a touchscreen at all. It was a frame that had embedded UV, I guess it was UV lights on each side and collectors on the other side. So that was kind of an invisible grid that you could put your hand through. That was a touchscreen. And I just want to show you, oh yes, and then the Walker Art Center, everybody got really excited about the piece because here was a piece that was being, all of these new technologies were being used by an artist. And so I think it was Bruce Jenkins got it placed at the Walker Art Center, and he got in touch with me. He said, okay, send us your installation plans. I have installation plans? What are installation plans? I had no idea. So they built this kind of kitchen cabinet, and I realized they did that. I realized that I needed installation plans. And that's how I became an installation artist. I mean, first I became a media artist, then I became an installation artist. So, and this was the installation that we went and consulted. We got into this, the opening of the new Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, and we discussed with them what we wanted, and I wanted a private space for the individual user that other people could see and use kind of elements from our piece. And they built this for us. It's quite nice, unrepeatable, and there I finally found, through my friend Kate Herson, introduced me to a installation designer who designed installations for trade shows, things like that. And he said yes, he would do it for us, and he made this, which is in the Whitney Biennial underneath the stairs, you know, and Bill Viola's. Well, Bill Viola always used to say they always put the video artists in the basement. Of course, they don't do that anymore. Now they've all moved way to the top floor, the top floors. But anyway, so there we are at the basement under the stairs. But it's the Whitney Biennial. It's kind of good. And then Chip got really interested in this, so we kept getting this piece shown everywhere, and he would always design different installations. I'm only showing you 3 of them. There are about 6 or 7, I think. This is the Jewish Museum that was very late to jump on board, but only jumped. And he decided he would just go nutty with it, but it was okay with it. The touchscreen is round the corner, and this is all extra stuff that you just put in there. Okay. I want to show you a 1-minute excerpt of the way the piece works so you can really get a sense of the interactivity. And this is...
If anyone heard this music, they would know that the Elf King was close by and that something terrible was about to happen. The Elf King had these daughters. They were beautiful witches. Every night he would send them out to sing and dance in the moonlight. One night, Sir Olaf came riding on his horse. He came upon the Elf King's daughter. She stretched out her hand to him and she said,
So all these props kind of show up in different parts of the piece. So as you could navigate through the piece, you feel you're in a kind of familiar territory. That's the singer's dress, for example, that she sings the song in.
Silk shirts and beautiful clothes that you refused. If you dance with me, I will give you gold and all the riches you can imagine. And he still refused. She became very angry. If you will dance with me, and with that, she struck him in the chest, and he felt as if a great sword pierced his body.
Here come the chickens again. Anyway, so yes, so that's Old King. The technology is actually quite simple. It's 3 video disc players, a switcher between the video disc players, and a data switcher, and a touchscreen. But a huge computer program had to be written that both allowed me to input all the data, and that was done completely by numbers, and then played it back in the piece. So that was the Old King. I mean, yeah, I think, as you can see, it's messy, and you know, by normal standards, it's not the most fantastic work of art ever, but it was really a first, and people got really excited about it, and it's in the Guggenheim collection for what that was. I'll come to that later. Here is what the people at Centre Pompidou decided would be good for the piece. You see it has that kind of angular French business. Okay. All right, moving on. You can see that it, in terms of these 3 issues, technology and architecture and subject matter, it's pretty clear at what it is in relation to this piece. But it still uses this idea of the cinematic architecture as well as the actual installation architecture. Okay. This piece is I think, my best piece. It's broken. We're trying to fix it. This image is from the Wolfman's Dream. And these are a couple of images from the piece. Image from Judith and Holofernes. Here's Judith decapitating Holofernes. Here is the Wolfman's Dream, Dogs on the Tree. He painted it himself. This is in the Freud Museum in London. You see the actual painting. Yes, he wasn't a great painter, but that was the dream that he had that gave him, you know, it means he lives forever. And of course, Freud's analysis is so crazy, absolutely insane. But the image is great, and so we thought we would recreate the image and look at it in relation to a couple of other stories. So here I'm showing you a 5-minute excerpt of the piece. Now, what I realized was that I'd made a couple of mistakes with Old King. One is that I'd edited. There were edits that came along that weren't caused by the user, which I didn't like. I wanted all edits to be caused by the user, so there was no edit that was ever made except by the user. And I wanted it to really move through time, so you didn't keep repeating things, which happened with Old King. So it tells 2 stories, and you go through the stories from beginning to end. So this is, and the third thing is that I asked Laura Kurgan, who's a friend, to design an installation I could travel with. And that's what she did. We'll come to that later. So you can touch the screen at any time, and something will happen. And a lot of the images are from Freud's analysis of the Wolfman's Dream. We get more and more dogs on the tree if we push.
I dreamt that it was night.
This is Freud's dream.
Suddenly the window opened of its own accord, and I was terrified to see that some white wolves were sitting on the big
That's my edit that we just saw. This is the Kreutzer Sonata story by Tolstoy. That is a very similar story. They cross over.
They say music uplifts the soul. Well, it's not true.
And you have to think of a way that you can make it so that touching the screen will always do something. So I had the idea, if you point at the screen, touch the screen, he looks out the window. You look out the window of the train that he's traveling in.
It makes you feel.
These subtitles are added these subtitles were not part of the piece, they're added to make sense of it when I do things like this.
When I was a young man, I lived a lonesome, degenerate life. Yet, I thought of myself as charming, perfectly moral. I didn't seduce anyone who wasn't as interested in me. I had no affection tastes. I avoided women who might tie me down with children or bring me home attached. Well, I didn't think you. But I always thought that idea that I would eventually marry and arrange for myself the most elevated and pure family life.
So as you can see, we have additional technology now. This is the story of Judith and Holofernes with early video, early film of that. Some of the 300 statues of the story. And John Simon.
Open the gates. We are victorious. This is the head of the great General Holofernes. And this is the canopy.
My mind was filled with images of that man and my wife. Images inflamed by the music. I went from one activity to the next, driven only by habit. Then I found in my hand a Damascus steel letter opener that had never been used. It was horribly sharp.
This is the high point of the story, and as you can see, he's going in, he's going to murder his wife, stab her to death. And we had now very interesting analog video switcher that was not very expensive, that we could control through the computer. So we could do these multi-screen things. And it was, it was really great. And you really feel as if you were being told the story, but you could also explore it in your own way. So wherever you touch, that's where the screen will split, and you can really play with it for the whole time. It's really great. Okay. So what I wanted to say just about technology is, at this point, the technology had really improved in a number of ways, although it's all still analog technology. For example, this switcher was not very expensive, but could do all of these effects, and you could always be controlled by computer. So you could have 3 discs. You could make sure that each one is pre-searching for what can happen, so there's no wait. It's all instantaneous. All of this is based on this kind of whole new set of technology that we use, we're trying to fix it. Doesn't work. We don't know why, but it's a medium that I would like to use. Not necessarily the Laserdisc, because all of this can be done with digital material. With digital video now, you don't have to go to these analog materials. But I think it's really a wonderful medium where you can explore a story, and the story is going to tell its story, but you can look at it from different angles all the time. And there are 3 stories here, and you can move between them. So that's that. Here you can see the installation that Laura Cogan built for us. And it folds up into boxes. I mean, you do have a lot of luggage, but okay. There you can see in different places. This went all over the place. It had a tour of England. I mean, practically every museum in Britain It went to and Scotland, Carpenter Center at Harvard, etc., etc. Bundkunster. And then I realized actually I didn't like this idea of touching the screen. So it would be better if you didn't have to interact with kind of equipment. So I had this idea that we could take the frame off the screen and hang it in the air, and then you just point through it like that. So you're not so clear about all of this hardware. Okay, so that's that. We've got to move forward because I want to get through a lot of stuff. Okay. Now, so those are two big pieces. Now we're moving on to the next period. I'm not sure if we're still using laser discs or not at this point, but I'm still making interactive works. This one is called March. Again, it's kind of biblical and folk stories. This was in the Brooklyn Anchorage, which some of you may know what it is. It's the area underneath the Brooklyn part of the Brooklyn Bridge, which they made into a museum, and they put on shows there, which meant I could build this huge piece with my colleague, James. I just lost his last name. Come back to me in a second. And it's a sloping ramp that you can walk on. And as you walk on it, it affects those two images in different ways. So here it is. Oh yeah, James Cathcart was the architect, and he built this. And we after Olkin, we got some really great funding. I don't think it even exists anymore, but this was really heavily funded. It's quite wonderful. And here are all the people who worked in it with me. But not all of them. There are many others. There are always others. But these are the main people. And you can see a little bit of it. It is just a 2-minute excerpt. Almost wearing the same clothes.
So this is why you chose.
This is a little quiet, I'm sorry. But I can tell you about it, which would help, I think. So the concept is that there is Rembrandt's painting of Sacrifice of Isaac, which is an extraordinarily beautiful painting. And as you move about the ramp, you kind of explore the painting. The painting moves with you. It's quite a wonderful experience, irrespective of anything else. And it's a horrible story, of course, as many of them are. But it is the foundation of the three biggest religions, or the three, not biggest probably, but three important religions in the world. So you've got to kind of take it seriously. Although Bob Dylan wrote a beautiful song about it, which doesn't take it seriously. So as you move about the ramp, the angel who's on the lower screen, who's been sent down to stop the sacrifice of Isaac, but he's late. And as he reaches the earth, he starts getting all of the desires that go with being human come back to him. And so he gets lower and lower, and then he remembers his past failures, like his failure to stop the decapitation of Holofernes. He missed that. He was too late. So that's the story that's told, and this is what he sees, and all of this you kind of get not by in any way making decisions, just by walking around like this on the ramp, and these things kind of emerge. And if you stay still, not much changes. This I think is quite a good piece actually, and I was very happy with it. But of course, we could never show it anywhere else, and it's all in storage now. And this, luckily enough, I had a full set of credits I found somewhere. But you're not going to know time because I got to keep moving. Here's the next piece. This is the one that's on the poster, which was commissioned by this Japanese museum for the biennial. Another very good budget. I think they got 6 media artists to make pieces. And I'd seen these photographs of the first photographs ever taken in a mental asylum by this photographer, Hugh Diamond. And I was quite troubled by them, actually, because he thought he could do a kind of psychoanalysis or a diagnosis of the patient through the photograph. And as you see the photographs, you see the diagnosis. And obviously, the patient is terrified of this huge camera that they put there in 18, I think it was, in the 1840s or 50s, very early in photography. And the patients are, very unstable people, and they have to put on the best clothes, as you can see, because the same dresses go among them, and they sit them, and then they analyze that. Okay, so my idea was we bring in an actress, and the actress gradually transforms herself to the mad women. That's what they're called, mad women, and by you pointing through the screen. So I decided I'd have a game structure. And the game is that if the two people can both get the person transformed, the transformed two actresses, now the mad women, will meet in the center screen. And so it had the game structure, which I was kind of interested in. And you can see a little bit of it. This was in the Beale Center in California. And here you can see a little bit of it working. It's not entirely successful for reasons I can't quite figure out. But now you can see I'm committed to having the frames just hanging there like gold frames in the room, and pointing through them changes things. There are the actresses. As you pointed her, we had a dress made that was a copy of the woman's dress, and piece by piece, if you pointed at her, she would change them. But if you do treat it like a video game and try to go really fast, you get lost and multiple staircases. You've got to find the slow pace of the piece in order to really make it work. So it's a kind of reverse idea. This is the photograph from the 19th century. There I am wearing the same shirt. And you can see I'm lost on this endless staircases because I went too fast. Anyway. I think you get the idea of this piece. We can move on. But yeah, I mean, the technology was kind of great. The frames that you pointed through and the changing of the photographs based on that, and having the photograph, the actresses meet on the center frame, all of that was great. But there's something about it that's not quite right. Maybe you can tell me. This next piece I think is great though. So you can't be great every time. This is Tunnel, again made with James Cathcart. And this was for a 2000 Millennium Show at the Thekatsolon, which is a coal mine in the Ruhr Valley. And they again commissioned a number of known media artists to make pieces. And so James and I went to the mine, and James said to me, we should go down and see the tunnels. I mean, that's why we're here. We've got to see what they're like so we could come up with a good idea. We were trying to come up with a good idea. Of course, they wouldn't let us go down to the tunnels. It was closed. He said, okay, so we'll build a tunnel. And that's what we did. We built a tunnel in the machine room of the mine. You can see you can see that black space, that black thing. This is the most poorly documented piece of all of my pieces, for which I'm entirely responsible, but it's a great piece. So you can see it's about 90 feet long, and it has some glass panels underfoot, and on the ceiling there are some projection panels, and you walk through it, and as you walk through, you are accompanied by, underneath, in the glass frames underneath, miners who are actually walking along underneath your feet. Now, I should tell you the secret of this piece. I knew that this was going to be a huge show, and there'd be lines and lines of people waiting to go up those steps into the tunnel. I mean, I think they were expecting a little more than they were getting, but you know, this is art, not amusement park. And so I decided that what I would do, the whole idea of this piece was that if you walk through like this, you'd walk through, and underneath you the miners would walk through too. This is Germany, it's Czechoslovakia, that 40%, in the Second World War, 40% of the workers were forced labor. We know what that means. And, I mean, they acknowledge it all in there. But I thought, you know, there's a kind of conventionality that's getting worse and worse everywhere we look. And I thought, let's make it that if they stop and don't follow the crowd and move backwards, everything good happens. So, and I insisted to the curator that he don't put that on the sign, so that the knowledge of it would kind of go through the crowd. It would work its way through. And people would eventually learn it, and then everybody would be working backwards. But at first, it wouldn't, and then they would feel disappointed. And I thought that kind of corresponded to this, you know, to the time we're in and to the history of the mine. Well, yes, in English it didn't say it. In German, as if I couldn't read German, it said, try going backwards for a really good experience. So it's kind of fitted in with my idea about it. Anyway, I'll show you a little bit of it. As I say, it's not the best documentation. 3 minutes. This is my collaborator, Bob Stratton, who wrote the software for it. This is, by the way, the technology here is DVDs. We had 5 DVD players. We shot in video, and you could control it. You don't have as much control as you do over Laserdisc players, but we had enough control for this. You can see how beautiful they made the coal mines. I think it was, designed by a famous Scottish architect, I think. James constructed it, as it says there, out of scaffolding. He got a scaffolding company to build it, and the covering of it is really just plastic sheeting. I mean, if somebody had leaned against it, they would have gone crashing down, but they didn't seem to care about that. And we had these very thick glass panels underneath, with covered with some kind of translucent paper, so we could project on it. And for sensors, we had these industrial sensor strips like they use in the big factories, like the big companies that do all the shipping, like Amazon, use these sensor strips to decide how the packages are going to move. So yeah, this says it all. I just wish I could show it to you better, but it was so much work to do, such an unbelievable amount of work. By the time it was up, I just didn't have the energy to do proper shooting, proper documentation. You can see, these are the people underneath. I mean, we shot all the stuff. We either shot it down or up. If it's on the ground, all of the shooting was straight down. And if it's on the ceiling, all of the shooting was straight up. There you see the ground catches fire. And we made sound to go with it. But it was really, the piece was really an experience. It was an experience I think was quite interesting, and it made you think a bit about this whole idea of taking coal out of the earth and having human beings do it and forcing them to do it because they were the wrong religion or they were Polish or something, which is in fact the case. Czechoslovakia, it's quite near Poland. And here you can see, look up at the ceiling, and that's what you see, the ceiling, the line of the subway in Queens. Then sometimes you see goldfish underneath. So yeah, it was a pretty straightforward piece, but I like it actually, and it's simple. I think we had won some kind of prize. I can't quite remember. Okay, one more. You can see that was an edit, not an actual thing. Okay, so I just have a couple more things to show you, and then that will be it. Let's just let this finish, because it's kind of interesting what you see at the end. Then of course that miners come back, and again you can walk through with them, or you can stop and see what will happen. There's quite a library of material of shooting down that you don't see any of. That was always different. And this is the actual mine, and these are the tools of the mine, and the actual shaft, and that's it. Year 2000. Okay, we're getting closer. This was the last big interactive piece I made. Let's see the next one. Okay, so then this is something interesting that happened, which I think I'll tell you, that the Guggenheim decided that they would acquire the Oil King in 2004, with the idea that they could preserve it in the way that you would preserve a painting. You know, they can restore and preserve paintings. So they had the idea that they would use my piece as a kind of model for future restorations of digital and media works. So, did this stop? So they looked for a programmer who would take the video discs and transform them into digital video. It could last forever, and then what were we going to do with all the programs and the switching and everything? It turned out to be a real problem, and in the end, this is the technology. What the programmer did, who's the programmer that helped me a lot later, Isaac Dimitrovsky, took a few of you will understand this, he took the source code and he had made a program that would read the source code in real time. So it's taking the source code, reading it time by time, line by line, and using that to apply to us. And what's he going to apply it to? Because we have to be able to address individual frames of video, which, as you probably know, can't be done very easily at all. So he made a video playback machine that could play back video from basically from individual frames of video. So he would turn the video into 30 per second individual frames, which is done now a lot, but at that point was not done. And then he would, how could he play that back? What he did is he had to split the software into several pieces, put them on different disks, and combine the disks in real time so he could play them back, because any compression wouldn't work, but it's much quicker to decompress than it is to try to play something that's very big and in real time. I think that's right. Anyway, so there's the rest of the story. The digital system ran too fast. We had to add delays to simulate the search frames and execution speeds of an analog system. And then they showed it one time in this show called Seeing Double, where they put both the original version and the, what we call the renewed version in the Guggenheim. And as you could see, this is that's the new one. Nothing in there except a computer. And I think, yeah, otherwise there's a whole bunch of software. So it was in that show. It's in the collection. It's in boxes. Yeah. Nice box. They made really nice boxes for it, and they showed me the boxes. But it's never been shown since. And yeah, I wish they would take another piece, but they won't. Okay. So this is the analog version you can see with all the equipment. And this is the digital version. They put it in exactly the same installation. They wrote the same installation both. I guess it's a kind of joke. If you're interested in finding out more about the Old King, you can take a scan of this. It's something I've written up. Read it later. Tell me when you got it. Tell me when I can take it down. This, yeah. Old King is a very historical piece. I just wish it was. Okay. Can I go? Ready? Okay. This is the last piece. Still Life with Banquet. Still Life with Banquet. We were invited by the 01, the San Jose 2010 Biennial. My friend Kitty Greenwald, who is a chef, said she wanted to make a piece for them. Would I do it with her? I said yes. So we decided she was going to make a dinner, give them the opening dinner for all the people who supported the festival. And I had this idea. Well, I guess we had it together. And this Barbara's here, and I have to tell you that Barbara she didn't save my life, but she got me out of a very deep hole and got the piece done. And there's Barbara Kalina right there. So I haven't had a chance to say thank you in all these years, so thank you, Barbara. Okay, so what we did is we looked for still life paintings from the Dutch area, the Dutch arena, which could be made into the courses. Those ingredients could be made into a 4-course meal, a fancy 4-course California slow-cooked meal. Those are 4 paintings we found. We're using those ingredients for each of the courses. And what I did, this would work. Seems to have died on us. Oh, I turned it off, I guess. There we go. I want to go back. So these are my versions of those paintings. They're the originals. That's funny. Does it do it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it did it again. I'm sorry. Get inside. These are my versions. And what we're going to do is we're going to make time lapses of these pieces. And as the people are eating the dinner, the food, I mean, like a 4-month time lapse. So over that time, all of these things will rot. And as their stomachs are processing the food, they can see what it might look like. And these are the 4 very fancy courses they did. I think it was like it wasn't a very expensive one of those. I mean, it was like $300 a person or something. And they showed me the place they were doing it in, which is, we're going to have 5 or 6 video screens. They showed me this place. This is the community center of San Jose. And this is what it's like inside. Great for video, right? There are no curtains, no way of closing it up. But luckily it was at night. But it started, this is what it looked like. It started when it was still kind of light. And yeah, we put together a quite wonderful thing, actually. They had to build a kitchen because there was no kitchen there, so they built a kitchen outside. And there was the menu. All of these photographs are shot by Barbara, by the way. She's sitting there, including this one. And here it is. You can see all the screens set up. None of them have started decaying yet because the meal hasn't started yet. You can see them all. So it's kind of, this is a good piece, actually. There I am in the front. And here they are. I'd never seen the scene of a kitchen during a huge meal like this. They were frantic. You remember, did you see them, Barbara? They were just frantic. Barbara took these pictures. Yeah. They said, don't say anything to me. So, and they're all the place laid out. And they had this fancy thing where they had, each table held up 12 people, and they had to serve everybody at the same moment. So they had to get a whole army of waiters to come around to the table and put the plates down completely in sync, like this. So anyway, here it is. There they are. Sorry, press the button. This is a 1-minute version of the of the 20-minute time lapse. So we did it for 20 minutes. This is the 1-minute version. Here we got fruit flies from this one, right? Okay. Here again. And I can tell you that, you know, because Isaac had made this very special way of making video, very high definition. It was long before HD, so it's very totally high definition video made by just taking the video file, turning it into individual frames, splitting it horizontally into 3 parts, and then combining those parts from 3 hard drives in real time. So that meant that we could shoot very, very high definition images, you know, 1 every 10 minutes of those things, and get these very high definition images. Here they are again. This is the one with the fish that they kicked us out of the studio we rented. Barbara had to take care of covering the walls with plastic, right? You kind of negotiated with them. I'd left. I'd gone to Britain.
We have to change studios and redesign the entire cover. I had a studio with a window because the stench was so terrific that people thought that there were dead bodies in there.
It was. It was dead animal.
Found that he was going to kick them out before the project was done.
Actually, this is not the one I wanted to show you. Because we don't have a lot of time. I just want to show you this one. Now, which is the one? I'm going to. Now, which is the one with the mice? It was this one, right?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, you wouldn't look at it, you know. I mean, because it was 20 minutes long. You would just look up from your field occasionally and see where it was at. And of course, you can see the light changing. Day and night, day and night. I'm changing the speed. We put seeds in the soil so it would grow. And you can see how high definition the images are because we're moving around them like crazy. And now you can see the mice coming out. There they are. This is very, very manipulated in post.
Mice had a feast.
It was a very cute little mouse, that one. That's it for this. Each of those is a piece. The only piece I have left is this, which I won't show you anything of. This was a piece that some of you have seen, I know. It's called 100 Letters. It's 100 1-minute films, and they are in a grid, and the idea is that the audience shouts out what letter they want to see next, which is very exciting when you're at a festival or something, because everybody wants to shout they have a letter that they need. But it's not. But I think this can be a great piece if you make kind of things that continue from one screen to another. But I just went through my whole archive and made 1-minute pieces out of everything in the archive, adding a letter to each one. so that then people could shout out the names, shout out the letter they wanted and what they saw. I'll show you one of them. This is actually very nice. Okay, so then you would. Okay, just I just go this very quickly. The final thing I wanted to show you is that I was asked by the National Gallery of Art to pick a painting and make a film about it, which was really great commission. Very happy. I chose this painting. Then they asked me to do another one. I chose this painting by Peter Paul Rubens. We went and we shot lions at Hollywood Lions in California, trying to get them into all these positions. Then the Guggenheim asked me to make 3 films about Kandinsky paintings. And I got a concept for each of these, but this was a great thing. So here I am. Thank you all for watching. I would just like to point out that we quite often, I can thank everybody that worked with me. Many people that we don't thank, and in this case, I feel it's time that we need to really, not to forget the background workers who are some documented, some undocumented, make the rooms clean, make all this stuff possible. So this is part of the people that help us. And also, there are many people who literally helped me on my pieces who I've forgotten their names, or I forgot about them, or whatever. I hope none of them were in this room. So anyway, that's it. Thank you. We don't have time for questions. Do we have time for questions? We don't have time for questions. We don't have time for questions, do we?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Of course we do.
Any questions?
May I comment?
Speak up,
If anyone is interested, you still have the blog on your website, right, of the making of the Still Life with Banquet. So there's the background story and, documentation and more mice running around and things like that, and how Grahame was doing the planning and designing with Kitty. So that's an interesting piece, I think. You can look it up on Grahame's website, too.
I have a website. I'm not sure I do. Any other questions? Faith.
Can I just talk with you after this?
Well, you're supposed to record it.
Okay. I was wondering, Grahame, if you could talk a little bit more about your kind of approach to editing, like especially comparing the film work versus the interactive work, because it seems like there was, you kind of like, especially with the interactive work, you cede all power of editing. It's like a real departure. But even in the film work, there is this kind of programmatic element where the decisions are made, maybe not across the board, but a lot of them are made mathematically or through other kind of procedural ideas, as opposed to the film editing I'm sure you were doing commercially. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about like that relationship between the editing of film and the interactive pieces and like kind of your general approach to editing.
Well, the truth about the interactive pieces is I made every edit. Every edit that was made by a viewer was made in, of course, if it's a scene you can come in anywhere, but every edit was made in advance because I wanted every edit, especially in Sonata, I wanted every edit to be a good edit, so you could feel as if you were actually exploring through something that was smooth and elegant and made sense all the way. So, yeah, and that's not quite the case. I think in all of these things, probably in most cases, the edits were made in advance. It wasn't given over.
So it's the illusion.
But that's what cinema is. It's an illusion. Yes. So, but it felt like the ones that worked well felt like it was that they were actually being given over, and it was ways to explore because there were so many different pathways through each of these pieces that you wouldn't really know what pathways people were going to take and what, in terms of the larger cinematic architecture I'm talking about, in terms of what combinations and what connections people are going to make because of the way they've gone through it. Especially in Earl King, which we threw the kitchen sink into that film, everything we could find, and there were always ways of relating, find the way through it. So, yeah, and there were a lot of procedures. You're right in the films. There was a kind of editing, but as you know, editing's my thing. I love editing, and I think, but not doing it. I mean, who likes editing? Nobody likes editing. But the power that you have as an editor to make music, basically, it's unbelievable. And I still can't get over it. And I taught post-production here for years and years, as some of you know. So yeah.
Other questions? This one.
Hi. I want to know more about what you did with the sound, because in my short history of producing videos, I realized that it's always the sound that was the biggest trouble for me. Like, I know what to do with images, I know how to cut them together, but I never know what to do with sound, how to produce the right sound, how to find the right sound. And I wonder how you always, because many of the videos you showed us had fantastic sound that really syncs with the visuals.
I think it's simpler than you think, because if I'm on a feature film, and we finish the film and goes to the sound editors, they can have a crew of 6 people or 8 people, and they can work for 6 weeks on a feature film. It's time. Sound editing is incredibly slow, and you try different things, and you look at it and it doesn't work. You try something else, okay, this time it works, but I need to add another sound to it. And you're always blending sounds, even if it all comes from a library. And sometimes you have to make Foleys, because you can't find anything that works. But it's an incredibly slow and time. I don't mind it, actually. I like doing it because you end up with something that has real power. And you're absolutely right, it's incredibly important, but patience is the only solution I can offer. You have to accept. And on big films, they do accept that, yes, we've finished the film, everybody loves it, now let's wait another 3 months while the sound editors get through it. Maybe that's a bit much, maybe 6 weeks. So that's really all I can...
That's really helpful.
That's all I can tell you.
Thank you so much for the videos and the films. I want to know why you mentioned that boring is not an issue.
What is that an issue?
You said boring is not an issue. You mentioned that.
If a film is boring, why it's not an issue?
I think, why is it an issue? I mean, lots of things in the world take time, and you don't kind of get... Look, all right, let me put it this way. One of the great things about cinema is you go to the movies and 2 hours is used up like that, right? And you're not bored. And you think about, what is it about the cinema that enables time to pass so quickly? And this is one of the things I kind of imply in what I'm talking here. We use ways of looking forward and looking backward and, making people wonder what's going to happen next. It's always exciting to wonder what's going to happen next, although while you're wondering, it feels as if time is going slowly. You know, so yeah, so it's a manipulation. If you want to really express ideas and speak about ideas, you have to put up with the idea that it's not going to be like a movie. It's not going to feel like a Hollywood film that goes by in no time. So I don't think it's a problem when you say, when you say you're bored, it doesn't mean you're not interested in most cases. It means it just doesn't pass by at the same rate that fiction films do. And you kind of get into that, you know. I mean, I think, yes, that first film probably people found boring, but it's not boring. And actually, if you look at it carefully and you think about what that future perfect tense means and the way it's pointing forward and what actually happened when they were shooting, which is what that refers to, it gets interesting for you in your own mind, maybe not in terms of the way the film is manipulating you. So that's why I say it's not an issue. I mean, exactly, it's not an issue. Yeah, of course, some films, actually many commercial films, I find hopelessly boring because they're not giving me anything to think about. You know, but when there's something in there that catches your mind in ways you don't expect, which is what I'm working on all the time, then it may not be fantastically interesting to look at, but in terms of the experience and what you take away, I think it can be a lot better. That's it. I mean, that's how I live my life anyway. Anything else from anybody? Susan, you wanted to say something? Jenna.
You mentioned the word experiment in the beginning of your talk, and obviously we've talked a lot about the amount of planning that's involved structurally in the creation of your works. I was curious, which of your pieces did you find most surprising in terms of how it turned out, and what was the surprise element of it, if any?
Good answer or a bad answer?
Both?
Well, I'm surprised that Frames did not turn out as well as I hoped it would. I still don't quite understand why, so that's sort of a surprise. I'm looking back, you know, to make this piece. I mean, I don't have all these pieces available easily, so I spent a long time putting together this talk, and I had to go back through a lot of different things, and I was quite surprised how much I liked Future Perfect, which I'd basically forgotten, for example. I found it and I thought, oh yeah, this is really something, and I could see exactly what I was thinking about. So there's one that I find surprising. The interactive pieces tend not to be surprising because everything has been so laid out and so predictable in advance and takes such a long time. I like it when people like it and get something out of it. But for me, the pieces are not such a pleasure to look at. But some of the early films really are now. And I can see how those ideas kind of filter through everything I've done since that time, the films I did when I was in my 20s. So, yeah. I mean, is that an answer? Not really.
It is what it is.
Any more questions? Let me just say something. Is it on? Yeah. First of all, thank you so much.
Well,
not only for this, but for your whole career and contribution to image making. One of the things I neglected to say is, given all of this production, the knowledge of the technology, the ability to work with staff and people on your films, and it's pretty remarkable. It's a big enterprise. On top of that, Grahame has been teaching for many years before here, you know, at Cal Arts and Buffalo. Were you teaching at Buffalo at all? And
other places too.
Being a teacher at Harvard, he did a gig there. It's an amazing career, and he's also the editor of really the foremost journal of experimental filmmaking and independent film of the kinds we're talking about.
I know, but there are only two, Johnny.
Well, yours is the best.
It's true.
And it's gotten better since Grahame got full control of it. There are several people in this room that work with him and have worked with him. And lastly, you got to know that he is a doctorate of philosophy, a specialist in Wittgenstein. So people don't really know that. And You know, I wish we had done this 20 years ago, this show.
Just give it away. All
But
my
I know why you
secrets.
didn't.
I've no
Anyway,
more secrets.
thank you to the audience. We're missing a few of our first year students. I'm going to get on them hard. As you know, anybody who's an alum here, that can be pretty tough. Anyway, thank you, Graham, and
Oh, thank
all
you,
the people
Sean.
working.
Thank you for inviting me.